3 years without touch. The shocking truth behind this millionaire's devastating decision. When the news broke, it jolted the world awake. A millionaire, once the toast of the town, had vanished from the social scene. 3 years without even a handshake or a hug. The whispers ignited what could cause such a drastic self-imposed isolation. Fingers danced over keyboards, speculating everything from heartbreak to a terrible secret lurking just beneath the surface. His extravagant mansion sat filled with art and luxury, but inside its walls, a chilling mystery brewed, and the grand hall, echoes of laughter had faded into haunting silence. His closest friends turned into shadows, each one trying to piece together the puzzle. The first strange element? They all swore something felt off the air, heavy and thick, almost like stepping into a realm where time stood still. Reports surfaced of odd sightings, the millionaire gazing out a grubby window, his brow furrowed as if haunted. It sent shivers down spines as neighbors recounted late-night sounds, unsettling routines, and faint flickers of light. Secret meetings stacked high with unsent messages, hushed talks dripping with worry. What was he hiding? As the months dragged on, the tension escalated. The buzzing curiosity of reporters and fans became unbearable, flooding his social media with relentless questions. How could someone so wealthy, so successful, suddenly retreat into a life devoid of human connection? Did he regret it? Or perhaps was it a choice born from pain too deep to comprehend? Friends started to slip into despair, wondering if their lavish shared memories had been nothing but a veil over a grave suffering. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. It wasn't just a millionaire's solitude. It was a tragic overture to something bleak. His life had become a spectacle, viewers glued to screens, each anxious for the next development. Would he break his silence? Would answers finally emerge? Shadows loomed over his legacy, every minute stretching into eternity. The world held its breath, expecting a revelation that could shatter the silence and rebuild the man behind the $1 million smile. But would it be enough to change his fate? As the clock ticked on, curiosity swirled. Would the truth be a blessing or a full-blown catastrophe? The days turned into weeks, and with each sunrise the whispers grew louder. It felt as though the world had conspired to keep the millionaire locked in his silence. Friends, once eager to support him, found themselves drifting away, their calls left unanswered, their concerns swallowed by the mansion's oppressive walls. Then the unexpected happened. An old confidant named Lindsay decided enough was enough. The pressure of seemingly endless speculation weighed heavily on her. And one morning she stood outside his grand estate, determination in her eyes. She thought back to the laughter they once shared over wine glasses and the dreams of conquered businesses. How could a man who once lit up the room vanish without a trace? Lindsay knocked on the massive front door, and after what felt like an eternity, it creaked open. An unsettling chill rushed over her as she stepped inside. The once vibrant surroundings felt muted. The luxurious colors faded under the thick layer of dust that seemed to cling to every decoration. "Hello?" she called, her voice echoing back as if trapped. No answer. Heart pounding, she moved through the cold hallways, peering into rooms filled with forgotten memories. Photographs lined the walls, memories of a man who had lived life to the fullest. Now they lay like mementos in a ghost town. She made her way to the grand study, where a heavy drape barely moved, resisting the sunlight's embrace, and there he was, slumped over a desk surrounded by piles of unopened letters and a tangled mess of cables. The millionaire looked like a shadow of his former self. His hair disheveled, eyes sunken. He was a man devoured by his own solitude. "Lindsay," he croaked, the shock in his voice cutting through the stillness. Seeing him, all the questions burst forth. "What happened to you? Why did you shut everyone out? We've been worried sick." Fear twisted in her gut, but she pressed on. She needed answers. He raised a trembling hand, paused, and then silence. The words seemed to clutch at his throat, and for a moment, She thought he might crack under the weight of it all. Just when she thought he would spill everything, he looked into the distance, eyes narrowing. "You shouldn't have come," he whispered, barely audible, that a sense of dread washed over her as he turned away. Something stirred beneath the surface of his desolation, something her instincts warned her to avoid. But she needed to know. What haunted him? Was it truly a heartbreak? Or was there something more sinister lurking in the shadows? The moment felt electric, the tension pressing in around them as her breathing quickened. An uneasy sense of closeness loomed. "Please just tell me, what are you hiding?" His gaze flicked back to her, a swirl of emotions brimming beneath the surface. "There are things you can't understand," he replied, his voice trembling. Just then, a loud crash resonated from the back of the mansion. Both of them froze, eyes wide, hearts racing. Fear gripped Lindsay's chest as she wondered if the very silence they had been enveloped in was about to be shattered in the most terrifying way. What had she just unleashed? And would the truth be the key to breaking the chains? Or would it tighten the grip of the darkness that had overtaken him? The millionaire began to move toward the sound, but Lindsay hesitated. Should she follow him into the unknown? Risking everything? Would they uncover a dark secret? Or was it a harbinger of something worse? The mansion loomed over them, a husk of its former glory, and for the first time, it felt as if it harbored a truth potentially lethal. What lay ahead would force them to confront their fears and one another head-on. Would they be prepared for the shock waiting just beyond the door? The air in the mansion felt thick with tension, as the distant crash reverberated through the walls like a warning bell. Lindsay's heart raced. There was an energy in that sound, a sense of impending doom that clawed at her insides. She watched as the millionaire, a man she once knew as vibrant and full of life, glanced back at her, his face etched with fear. "Wait!" she called after him, urgency spilling from her lips, but he was already retreating down the dim corridor, his back a frail silhouette against the fading light. Every instinct screamed at her to turn and leave, to run from whatever horrors lay in his world. But something deeper, a mix of loyalty and curiosity, pulled her forward. She followed him, her footsteps echoing like an uninvited guest creeping into the unknown. As she stepped through the hallway, dust motes danced in the beams of light that penetrated the thick gloom. The atmosphere felt charged, as if the very walls were steeped in secrets, ancient records of laughter, joy, and now terror. The millionaire was ahead, moving quickly, driven by a force she couldn't comprehend. "Stop!" she called out again, panic rising in her throat, but he did not respond, lost in whatever haunted him. She rounded a corner, entering a small room cluttered with boxes and broken furniture. The crash had come from here. It struck her that this was once a place of warmth, of gatherings and laughter. Now it oozed despair, littered with remnants of a life that once thrived. And there it was. In the center of the chaos stood a figure, barely visible, silhouetted against the dim light. The figure had knocked over a stack of books, and as they crashed to the ground, the sound echoed out like a final goodbye. "Who are you?" Lindsay shouted, her blood running cold. The figure turned, and she recognized the wild eyes of a woman, disheveled and desperate. The woman's face was streaked with dirt, her hair tangled in knots. "Get away from here!" the woman screeched, her voice raw with panic. "You don't understand." Behind her, the millionaire stumbled back, eyes wide as if the woman were a ghost from the past. "Clara!" he gasped, a mix of shock and horror twisting his features. Lindsay felt her stomach drop. Clara, his former partner, the woman he had once loved. What had happened to her? Why was she here in this forsaken place? "Clara," Lindsay whispered, her voice trembling. "What is going on? Why are you?" "There's no time." Clara spat, her breath heavy with fear. "He has to stay away from me. You don't know what he has done. He will hurt you." Confusion tightened around Lindsay's chest, fear mixing with concern as she looked from Clara to the millionaire. "What do you mean?" Still, the millionaire stood shell-shocked, the weight of revelation dawning on him. "You shouldn't have come, Lindsay. I told you this is beyond what you think." Clara took a step forward, her eyes wide with desperation. "You have to listen. There's something dark here, something unforgivable. He's not the man you think." The words hung in the air, heavy and suffocating, while the walls of the mansion seemed to close in around them. Each heartbeat echoed, a countdown to an unknown fate that Lindsay's thoughts scrambled. What truth was Clara revealing? What had the millionaire done to warrant such terror? She could feel the walls shifting, the air humming with dread, and a chilling realization dawned. This confrontation was only the beginning. "Please," Clara pleaded, "you have to believe me." But before Lindsay could respond, the mansion shuddered, an unseen force tightening its grip. A sudden crash echoed from above, and the lights flickered ominously. Instincts kicked in, urging her to flee. Whatever lay at the edge of the truth was about to emerge, and it was anything but forgiving. What dark secret would they uncover next? What had the millionaire hidden away in the shadows? There was no escaping now. They were all bound by the threads of a now unraveling tapestry. The mansion groaned, creaking under the weight of uncertainty and terror. Shadows stretched across the room, and an eerie silence fell like a heavy cloak, wrapping around them. Lindsay's heart pounded in her chest as she instinctively took a step back, her pulse racing, each beat a loud reminder of the danger surrounding them. Clara's wild eyes darted between Lindsay and the millionaire. "You don't know him anymore," she urged, her voice breaking. "He has changed. There's something inside him, something that fuels darkness." Lindsay felt the prickling of fear climb up her spine. She glanced at the man she once admired. The fear etched in his features suggested that Clara's words bore an undeniable truth. "Just tell us what happened," Lindsay demanded. "Why are you hiding? Why are you afraid of him?" "Because he's become a monster." Clara's voice was sharp, cutting through the icy air. "And you're standing in the path of destruction." The walls shuddered again and dust rained down, as if the house itself was warning them. Lindsay's thoughts raced. Should she trust Clara? Or was this some twisted game they were all caught in? "I need answers," she shouted, her voice tinged with desperation, feeling the heat of panic envelop her. "You both know something, please stop keeping these secrets." The millionaire's expression hardened, the vulnerability vanishing as quickly as it had come. "You have to go. This isn't for you, Lindsay," he snapped, his voice shaking. "You have no idea what it's like to lose control." "Lose control?" Clara echoed, her voice a whispered scream filled with resentment. "What do you mean by that? You hid from the reality you created. You think this is just about you?" Suddenly, the chandelier above them flickered ominously. Lindsay instinctively raised her hands to shield herself as small shards of broken glass rained down. The tension was palpable, each breath filled with uncertainty. "Enough!" the millionaire shouted, the authority in his voice rattling Lindsay. But behind that power was something else: vulnerability. It cracked through the surface, revealing a man wrestling with his demons. Clara lunged forward, reaching for the millionaire with trembling hands, her eyes wild. "Stop pretending you're untouchable. You think I wouldn't figure it out?" Tears streamed down her cheeks. "You can't keep running from the truth." With that, the air went electric. A primal scream echoed down the corridors, echoing through the walls like a curse. Lindsay's heart raced as she felt the ground shake under them. They were not alone. "What have you done?" Clara wailed, stepping back as if struck. "I did what I had to do." The man's voice trembled, raw with emotions. "I sacrificed everything. That's what you keep telling yourself." Clara screamed back, voice cracking. "Sacrifice? You hurt people, David. You think it's too late to change?" Lindsay's throat felt tight. Blood rushed in her ears. The haunting shadows danced closer, creeping into her vision. What had he done? What lay beneath this facade of wealth and power? The mansion shivered, another bone-rattling crash resonating from above, louder this time, almost as if someone or something was trying to break in. "Run!" Clara yelled, her voice drowning in the mayhem. "We need to get out of here." "Why?" Lindsay shouted, fear clawing at her insides. "What's coming? What's south inside this place?" Before anyone could answer, the room shook once more, and the walls seemed to breathe. With a sudden crash, the door to the room slammed shut, plunging them into darkness. Trapped, with hearts pounding, they stood frozen in the pitch-black abyss, each of their breaths shallow and uneven, weighed down by the secrets swirling around them. The truth would soon claw its way to the surface. What horror awaited them beyond the door? Would they discover the source of the darkness that haunted the millionaire? Time was running out. The mansion was alive, and it demanded its secrets be revealed. The darkness swelled around them, thick and suffocating, pressing against their skin like a living entity. Lindsay could barely breathe, her chest tightening with the weight of panic. She reached out instinctively, finding Clara's arm and gripping it tightly as if it were a lifeline. "It's too quiet," Clara whispered, her voice trembling and barely audible. Lindsay's mind raced, her thoughts returning to the shattering scream they'd heard moments before. The walls shuddered in response to that haunting echo, and she felt an unsettling thought creeping in. What if whatever was out there was worse than the man they were afraid of? What did he mean by sacrifice? Lindsay's voice broke the silence, desperation lacing each word. What did he do? He thought he could control it, Clara replied in a shaky breath, stepping closer as shadows flickered around them. But something inside him twisted that control into chaos. He unleashed something darker, something that wants to consume him and everyone around him. A heated surge of anger flooded Lindsay's veins. "You're talking about him like he is a monster," she snapped, "but he is still a person. There has to be something redeemable in him. I need to know if we can save him." "Sometimes monsters wear faces we recognize," Clara retorted, her eyes fierce yet tinged with sadness. "What I can't take is being a pawn in this game, waiting for someone to fall victim to the darkness." Lindsay opened her mouth to speak, but a loud crash echoed above them, followed by a chorus of whispers that seemed to swirl around the room like tattered smoke. The air turned heavy with an ominous energy, something swirling just beyond their grasp. The shadows pulsed, and for a fleeting moment, she thought she saw shapes shifting, coiling just outside their range of sight. "What was that?" Lindsay squeaked, her voice caught in her throat. Clara shook her head, eyes wide as she moved closer to the door, hands pressed flat against the wood. "I don't know, but whatever this is, it wants to be let in. Aren't you curious?" The millionaire's voice emerged from the dark, cold and penetrating. "You claim to care for me, yet you cower in fear of the truth. You must understand I wasn't always like this. Then tell us the truth," Lindsay yelled, trying to break through the shadows creeping in from all sides. "We deserve to know what darkness lies within you. For your own sake, you should forget about me," he replied, a hint of desperation creeping into his tone. "It's too late for me. But for you it's not." With that, the mansion howled, a deafening roar vibrating through its bones. The walls struck back, shaking violently, splinters flying like daggers through the air. Clara screamed as she stumbled backward, pulling Lindsay with her. "Hold on!" Lindsay yelled, instinctively shielding Clara as the room began to collapse around them. The very bricks cracked and splintered, stubbornly fighting against the chaos unleashed. Then through the turmoil, a flicker of light appeared down a distant hallway. It pulsed once, twice, as if beckoning them. "This way!" Lindsay shouted, her voice layered with urgency and fear. "Do we trust him?" Clara breathlessly asked, hesitation creeping into her tone as they stood on the precipice of decision. With a determined nod, Lindsay gripped Clara's hand tighter. "Whatever's waiting for us in that hallway can't be worse than what we're facing here. We have to know." They made a run for the light, the mansion shuddering as if protesting. But now they were driven not by fear, but by a shared resolve to confront whatever lay beyond. As they dashed through the dust and chaos, the mansion itself groaned louder than ever, echoing the deeper shadows behind their fate, colliding with a past waiting to be confronted. Would they emerge changed, or would the darkness claim them as it had its master? The light ahead flickered once more, revealing a figure in the distance, cloaked in shadow yet glimmering with a haunting familiarity. And then, just before they reached it, the figure turned, their face hidden, shrouded in obscurity. Lindsay stopped dead in her tracks, heart leaping. "Wait! Who are you?" The figure in the light shifted, its form barely discernible. Lindsay felt a rush of warmth pierce through the chill of dread surrounding them. "Who are you?" she repeated, her voice firm but quaking inside. "Do you really want to know?" The figure's voice was raspy, yet it held a strangely magnetic quality that pulled Lindsay in. There was a flicker of vulnerability in the shadows, because once you know, you'll never be able to unsee it. Clara leaned closer, her breath hitching. "You're not, are you?" she stammered, her eyes darting nervously. "It's time to face the truth. You've both come so far," the figure intoned, moving out of the shadows slightly. A flash of pale skin and dark, haunted eyes flashed before the light dimmed again, leaving only the whisper of its presence. Lindsay's heart thundered. "What truth? We didn't come to play games." She instinctively braced herself, ready for whatever dark revelation awaited them. "We're out of time," the figure said urgently. "You must decide quickly. Help him, or let him be consumed. It's the only choice that matters now. Lindsay swallowed hard, anxiety knotting her stomach. Help. That word felt like a lifeline, yet it also bore an incredible weight. Help who? The figure raised a trembling hand to point toward the distant shattering noise from the walls of the mansion. A collective groan of desperation. The man you fear, the one you call a monster. He is trapped in the middle of a battle, and you need to decide if you're on his side or if you'll turn away, leaving him to the darkness. Why should we trust you? Clara's voice cracked, filled with the fierce defiance of a trapped animal. You're just another shadow, another part of this nightmare. Trust doesn't come easily here, the figure replied, stepping forward, revealing a fleeting semblance of familiarity. But remember, monsters don't grow in the light. They thrive in fear. You must act before it's too late. The walls shivered, and more voices echoed, weaving through the air like tortured memories. Lindsay felt her resolve waver. Shadows drew closer, eager to consume them too. The mansion's heartbeat thundered ominously, each mournful crackle serving as a reminder of the chaos they were running from. Suddenly, the figure lunged closer, revealing the intensity of its gaze, the edges of the light trembling with urgency. You will face the truth, whether you are ready or not. Time is a luxury you no longer have. With a shattering force, the darkness spiraled around them, a vortex of shadows swirling and crashing. Fists of fury slammed against the walls, and the atmosphere thickened with palpable fear. Run! Lindsay screamed, instinctively taking Clara's hand again and pulling her toward the figure, desperate to escape. Wait! Clara shouted, trembling as she hesitated, searching for clarity in the chaos. What truth? What will we find? But the figure had already begun to fade, leaving behind an echoing silence that felt heavier and more suffocating than the dark itself. A choice everyone must choose, and just as the figure fully dissolved into the shadows, another shriek rang through the hall, the sound of despair ripping through the mansion like a jagged knife. Lindsay stumbled, fear flooding her system as fleeting glimpses of the future unfurled in her mind. Confrontation, sacrifice, longing, and darkness waiting to engulf them all. She faced Clara, eyes wide and breathless. We can't just stand here. We have to find him. He needs us. But as they turned to move back toward the flickering light, the shadows writhed around them, eager to snuff out their resolve. The mansion moaned louder, a dark invitation, whispering promises of the unknown. What if the truth is more than we can handle? Clara gasped, her voice shaking with fear. The whispers crawled into their minds, and the very walls seemed to amplify their doubts. Brace yourself, Lindsay said, determination igniting in her chest. If we're going to face this thing, we have to do it together. Together they plunged into the darkness that waited, hearts racing, ready to confront not only a monster, but perhaps their own deepest fears waiting to be unleashed. And in that moment of choice, a chilling realization washed over them. What if the truth was far worse than anything they could imagine? Just before they plunged into the unknown, a flash of light pierced the darkness one last time, a final warning echoing. Do you choose the truth? Or will you turn back? The shadows enveloped Lindsay and Clara, thick and palpable. Fear clawed at their throats as they stumbled through the lingering darkness. It felt alive, hungry. The haunting whispers filled their ears, a choir of despair that reached into their very souls. Lindsay, I can't, Clara gasped, her voice barely a whisper. Keep going. Lindsay shouted, her heart pounding. We need to find him. They moved deeper into the recesses of the mansion, navigating through the vast, echoing void that stretched around them. Silence loomed between glimmers of sound, the creaking of ancient wood, the soft rustle of unseen things swirling just out of reach. But with every step they took, the air crackled, charged with impending doom. Suddenly a blazing light flickered ahead, revealing a staircase spiraling downward. Look! Lindsay exclaimed, her pulse racing as she nodded toward it. We have to go down there. As they approached, the air grew colder, wrapping around them like a damp shroud. Clara hesitated, her eyes wide in terror. What if we're walking into a trap? Or into a rescue? Lindsay countered, firm yet trembling. We can't let fear control us. We have to make the choice. With a shared silent agreement, they descended the staircase, each step echoing ominously in the stillness. The air thickened with the scent of damp earth and decay, reminding Lindsay of the looming choices ahead, the choice to flee or confront whatever awaited at the bottom. To the base of the stairs, They emerged into an expansive chamber, its walls lined with mirrors that shimmered in distorted reflections. The light flickered, casting bizarre shapes onto the floor, creating a dance of shadows that drew closer as the seconds passed. "Where is he?" Clara whispered, eyes darting from mirror to mirror, seeking solace in the familiar face of their friend. Then, from the corner of her eye, Lindsay caught movement. Something shifted in one of the reflections. "Over there." She pointed suddenly, urgency breaking through her fear. But as they approached, dread washed over them. The reflection revealed not just their faces, but a swirling chaos behind them, a shadowy figure thrashing, writhing against the unseen chains of a dark force. "No, that can't be," Clara cried, stepping back in horror. The figure within the mirror bore a striking resemblance to the man they feared. But there was something darker lurking beneath his surface. Lindsay's gut tightened as she grasped the significance. He wasn't just trapped. He was changing, morphing into something grotesque. "No, it isn't possible," Lindsay muttered, heart racing with despair. "We have to help him," Clara yelled, voice cracking. "If we don't, he'll become that." "But how? It's like he's lost to the darkness," Lindsay stammered, struggling to comprehend the twisted reality before them. "Remember what the figure told us? Monsters thrive in fear. He needs us. We have to break the chains." Clara's voice rose with determination, but the fear in her eyes mirrored Lindsay's own. With apprehension clawing at her heart, Lindsay stepped toward the mirror, her hand trembling. "What if we break it and he gets out? But it's worse than we thought. Then we face it together," Clara insisted, her resolve shining through the darkness. As they pressed closer, the figure within the mirror yelled out, a blood-curdling scream that seemed to shake the very fabric of the mansion. "Help me! You have to help me!" Lindsay felt the heat of fear pressed against her chest. But another emotion ignited a spark of hope. She reached for Clara's hand. "Together we can do this. We can't turn back now." With their hands joined, they focused on the swirling menace in front of them. Every ounce of courage funneled into that one desperate moment. On 3-1-2, but just as they prepared to break the mirror, a howling wind whipped through the chamber. The lights flickered intensely, and a deep, sinister laughter rose from the shadows, chilling their blood. "Fools!" it boomed, reverberating off the walls. "You think you can save him? You know nothing of the truth." Lindsay's heart dropped. The darkness coiled tighter, and the mirror trembled as if aware of the confrontation about to take place. With uncertainty gnawing at their resolve, the two girls locked gazes. They had made it this far, but the magnitude of what lay before them felt staggering. "Do you really choose the truth, knowing the price it demands?" The voice echoed, and for a split second, both girls stood paralyzed, caught between fear and determination. Their fingers tightened on each other, ready to plunge into what might become their greatest nightmare, or perhaps, their only chance for salvation. As they broke the silence, a final scream erupted from the mirror. The plea echoed hollowly in their minds. Just as they braced for impact, the world around them tilted, the boundaries of reality blurring what awaited them on the other side. Did they dare confront the truth? Or would the darkness consume them entirely? The moment the mirror shattered, it splintered the air with a cracking sound that reverberated through the chamber, slicing through the tension like a knife. Time appeared to freeze, the world tilting on its axis as shards of glass erupted, splattering around them like a rain of stars. Lindsay and Clara shielded their eyes, hearts racing, hoping desperately that the fragmenting shards would not reflect their own vulnerabilities. Suddenly, a gust of wind roared from the mirror's remnants, whipping their hair back, and along with it came an eerie darkness that rolled out like smoke, swallowing everything it touched. The oppressive weight thickened as shadows coiled around their limbs, tugging at them with a chilling insistence. "No!" Clara screamed, her voice barely breaking above the cacophony. She stumbled, nearly losing her grip on Lindsay's hand as the darkness surged forward, reaching for them like the grasping fingers of a ghost. "Stay close!" Lindsay shouted, dragging Clara to her feet. "We have to get through it." With their feet pounding against the cold, hard floor, they darted toward the faintly glowing figure of their friend, which now revealed itself amidst the chaos. He looked agonized, his features twisted and marred, struggling against an intangible force that bound him like a puppet on strings. The change was accelerating, pulling him further into the depths of that malevolent space. "Help me, please." The words rushed from his lips, filled with desperation. It drove them forward, each step pulling them deeper into this dark maelstrom, where reality itself seemed to fray at the edges. But as they sprinted closer, the chant of laughter returned, an ominous sound echoing through the chamber, chilling them to their core as it crescendoed into a dreadful chorus. You think love will save him? You think you can fight what you do not understand? The voice wrapped around them like barbed wire, each word digging into their minds. Lindsay's heart thundered wildly against her ribs. Clara, we can't listen to it. We have to focus. Right, Clara replied, voice shaking but filled with a growing resolve. What do we do? Churning in the pit of her stomach, fear wrestled with determination. Lindsay's mind raced back to their recollections of the figure's warnings. We can't let it feed on our fear. We have to trust in our bond, in our love for him. On three again, Clara shouted, stealing her nerves. Just like we planned. Okay, 1, 2, they lunged forward together, their united front like a beacon against the advancing darkness. In that moment, the shadows thickened further, almost sentient, swirling around them like a tidal wave breaking against the shore, threatening to pull them under, yet it was the bond between them that glowed brightly, lighting their path. 3. Clara's voice rang sharp and clear. At that command, they reached for him, their friend, their anchor, and with every ounce of passion, they grasped to his fading spirit. A violent explosion of energy crashed through the chamber like a storm. The shadows recoiled, howling with rage, while the remnants of the mirror rained down like glimmering fireworks, illuminating a strange, swirling portal that yawned open before them. Yet, amidst the chaos, Lindsay saw the horrific transformation take shape. The man they loved was being pulled into a dark, monstrous reflection of himself, not just trapped, but evolving, darkness coursing through him like molten lava. No! Lindsay cried out, desperation twisting her heart into knots. We won't let you take him. The portal beckoned, a swirling vortex filled with light and dark, but it spiraled with uncertainty and pain. Can you handle the truth? It reverberated through the air, a sinister echo coaxing them. They exchanged a glance. This was their final choice. Would they step into the unknown, or watch him slip away forever into the darkness? With the portal pulsating before them, every heartbeat drumming with dread and hope, Lindsay opened her mouth to shout a defiant answer. But before her voice could take flight, the laughter roared again, shaking the foundations of their very souls. Everything around them splintered, the world warping into a swirling chaos as they braced for what awaited them on the other side. Did they have the strength to face what they had awakened? Would the monster lying within their friend emerge? Or could love forge a way through the shadows? The split-second decision hung suspended in the air, as did the chilling question what awaited them in that realm beyond the mirror. With a collective breath, they plunged into the vortex. Coldness enveloped them like a shroud, pulling them deeper into the swirl of lights and shadows. Clara squeezed Lindsay's hand tighter, her nails digging into flesh. It was hard to tell where the darkness ended and the light began, as they swirled together, disoriented, bodies weightless, hearts pounding a frantic rhythm. The sense of falling eventually ceased. They landed abruptly on a hard surface, the impact rattling their bones. Instinctively, they pushed themselves up. The air was thick and heavy, buzzing with an energy that crackled around them. As they looked around, they found themselves in a dimly lit chamber, its walls pulsating with a pulse that echoed the feverish rhythm of their hearts. Ragged breath mingled with shadows that flickered like whispers against the walls, alive with the unseen. Lindsay's heart raced, a sharp pain curling in her chest. "Where are we?" she murmured, her voice a fragile thread in the ominous silence. Clara's eyes darted wide with fear and wonder. "I don't know, but we have to find him." The atmosphere twisted, full of untold secrets, wrapping around them like a suffocating blanket. Vague shapes skittered through the corners of their vision, disappearing the moment they turned to look directly at them. Goosebumps prickled their skin, the sensation reminiscent of cold fingers trailing across their backs. "Over there," Clara pointed. A flickering light emerged through the darkness, a solitary figure standing at the edge of shadows. "It's him." Lindsay's pulse quickened, but dread clawed at her insides. The shape was distorted, humanoid yet grotesque, like a twisted reflection of their friend. The darkness clung to him like a second skin, feeding on his distress. He was alive but trapped within this nightmare realm. "Can you hear me?" Clara shouted, desperate, hands shaking. "Fight it! Fight for us! The figure turned slowly, the haunting light reflecting in his eyes, transforming hope into raw panic. "It's too late," he whispered, voice laced with despair. "You shouldn't have come. You'll only make it worse." "No." Lindsay's cry reverberated, blending her fear with determination. "We're not leaving without you." A harsh laugh echoed around them, dark and mocking, weaving through the air. "Love? It won't save you here." The sound was visceral, designed to shatter spirits. Lindsay felt a chill crawl up her spine. The laughter was a physical thing, vibrating through her bones. She and Clara exchanged glances, quick and affirming, a silent pact forming through fear. It was now or never. "We're strong enough," Clara shouted defiantly, stepping forward. "We know who you are. We believe in you." But the shadows closed in, pulling him gradually back into the depths where hope flickered like a dying flame. The chamber swirled with energy, threatening to consume them whole. "You don't understand," he yelled. "They will take you too. Then let them try." Lindsay's throat caught as she willed her voice to be steady. She advanced into the darkness. They had come this far, and they couldn't go back now. In a heartbeat, it felt as if the very air crackled with power, the shadows recoiling, their laughter echoing with uncertainty. Clara stepped beside her, arms outstretched. Together, they joined hands, forging a chain of determination against the encroaching darkness. Back in the mirror's realm, they fought to grasp his spirit, and here they would stake everything to pull him from the brink. With murmurs of incantation rising from somewhere deep within, they pushed toward him, hearts synchronizing with beats of courage. But just as they reached out, the very fabric of the darkness convulsed as if awakening. A blinding light surged from their bond, illuminating the room. Anticipation surged within them, laced with dread. And then a thunderous roar erupted from the shadows, as if the void itself was screaming, "You will never escape your fears." As the light spread and darkness flickered, a realization pierced through the chaos like a sharpened blade. What lay beyond conjured a choice that both exhilarated and terrified. Would they stand firm against the shadows fighting for their friend, or would they also become the shadows feeding on fear? The impending decision loomed heavy, and in the aftermath of that monstrous roar, Lindsay felt terror creep back in. Amidst the swirling light and fractured dark, she wondered what if they weren't just fighting for him, but also for their very souls? The blinding light flickered and pulsed, threatening to engulf them entirely, but it brought with it a surge of strength, washing over Lindsay and Clara like a tidal wave. "Stay together," Lindsay shouted, pulling Clara closer as they stood firm against the darkness closing in around them. They had to believe. They had to fight. "Whatever you are, you can't have us," Clara yelled, her voice breaking through the chaos. "We choose love, we choose hope." As they leaned into that shared resolve, the energy between them sparked, igniting a fire that reverberated through the shadows, pushing back against the swirling void closing in. The figure before them, a twisted reflection of their friend, began to flicker more intently, trapped between two worlds, pulsing as if it were a light fighting to be reborn. "David," Lindsay cried, desperation coloring every word. "You need to fight this. We're here. We believe in you." For a moment the grotesque features in the shadow flickered with recognition, and within those tortured depths, a glimmer of their David emerged. I'm not him anymore," he choked out, caught in the throes of despair. "Yes, you are. You are still him. The man we love." Clara pressed forward. "You need to take control." The shadows shrieked with rage, swirling around them with renewed ferocity. "You are fools." The darkness hissed, coiling tighter around them, threatening to crush their voices into silence. "You can't save him. He belongs to the dark now." But as the shadows taunted, the light between the three of them flared brighter, as if feeding off their hope and love. The oppressive air thinned. The darkness writhed, revealing cracks beneath the pressure. "You need to harness what's left of your humanity," Lindsay shouted, wrenching her heart open to him. "Find the love," Clara urged, her voice steady amidst the cacophony. "Find the light you lost." And at that moment something shifted. The light rippled, and with it came a cacophony of memories, laughter shared, moments held dear, bonds forged through trials and triumphs. As they poured love into the swirling light, the shadows twisted and screamed, desperate to keep hold of their prey. David's shadow flickered once again, his eyes glazing with something deeper than mere despair. He turned toward the light, You're still here? He gasped, the shards of his former self beginning to break free from the chains of darkness pulling him down. Yes, Lindsay cried, her voice surging with newfound power. And we won't leave you behind. We will fight for you. With every ounce of strength they had, they pushed forward, their hands firmly clasped, refusing to let go. The very essence of who they were melded together, glowing fiercely against the menacing shadows. We believe in you, David. Fight! A roar erupted from the darkness as if the shadows themselves felt threatened. The cacophony reached a fever pitch, causing everything around them to quake. Lindsay and Clara closed their eyes, reaching deeper into their hearts, determined to anchor him, determined to pull him back into the light with them. And that charged moment, a shaft of pure white light burst forth from the core of their joined hands, illuminating the entire chamber. The darkness shrieked, contorting, twisting against the brightness as it flooded every crevice. With that light came a surge of energy so fierce it obliterated the shadows that had tormented them. The figure of David shuddered, and within him, a resounding clarity began to surface, his true self fighting to break free. Clara Lindsay, he murmured, his voice shaking as the shadows retreated. I was lost, but you showed me the way back. The shadows, faced with the overwhelming power of their love, began to dissolve, shrieking in retreat as they melted into nothingness. It was working. Hope ignited anew in Lindsay's chest as she witnessed it, the horrifying visage of David's twisted self crumbling, revealing bits of the man they had fought for. With one last desperate push, they reached out, grasping his hands, pulling him closer. In a blinding explosion of light tinged with warmth, his true spirit surged forth, breaking the final chains that bound him. The shadows faltered and began to collapse, evaporating into wisps of despair that vanished into the ether, carrying with them the last remnants of fear. And then all was still. The darkness faded like a bad dream, and a relieved gasp filled the air. The chamber, stripped of its malignancy, transformed into a calm sanctuary, glistening with remnants of starry light. David stood before them, bathed in soft golden luminescence, the distortion in his features gone. He looked like the man they once knew, vulnerability apparent in his eyes but filled with gratitude and a hint of peace. You saved me, he breathed, tears streaming down his cheeks. I thought I had lost everything. We're always here for you, Clara replied, stepping forward, arms outstretched. You're not alone anymore. Lindsay joined her, enveloping him in their embrace, relief washing over them. No more hiding, no more darkness. Together we will heal, she whispered. A profound silence settled around them, broken only by the soft beating of their hearts, echoing hope and love. The weight of the mansion, the secrets buried within its dark walls, had finally been lifted. They had faced the depths of fear and emerged, forged stronger, illuminating a path for David back into the light. As they stood there together, shadows of the past drifted away, and in the aftermath of that harrowing battle, a new dawn broke beyond the horizon, signifying a fresh start and a chance to begin anew. The world outside waited for them, full of possibilities and promise. And as they took their first steps forward together, Lindsay and Clara knew their journey was not just about aiding David, but embracing their own strengths, about confronting darkness, together, and rising into the light. So here's the end of this incredible journey. I hope you felt every heartbeat like I did. If you loved this story, you need to subscribe now to our channel, so you won't miss any of the exclusive stories we have lined up for you. Smash that like button now to fuel the algorithm that brings us closer, and flood the comments section with your reactions, your theories, and everything you thought of this finale. And don't wait even 1 second, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to be inspired by this conclusion. Your support means the world to us. So let us keep this incredible journey alive together.